Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and open up the chat here for everyone so that we can all get to know each other a little bit. Tell us where you're joining us from and what courses you teach, what you're hoping to learn out of today's session. We're so happy that all of you are here. My name is Hannah Crapeau, and I'm the Content Marketing Manager here at Certiport. We're having our fifth Certified Academy webinar of 2025. We're so glad that you're all here to learn and grow with us. The session is being recorded, so we'll be sending out a link to the full recording after our webinar has wrapped this afternoon. If you have questions that you want to address with our panelists, please feel free to drop those into the chat or the Q&A feature. We're going to be panel style discussion today, so we'll address those questions as they come up so that we can all learn and address some of the topics that we're coming across in the classroom and what we're hoping to learn about today. Now, I did want to give a quick call out to our session sponsors. This session is being sponsored by two of our certification programs here at Certiport. The first is our Autodesk Certified User Program and our Unity Certified User Program as well. The Autodesk Certified User Certification is an industry-recognized credential that effectively starts students' careers as designers, engineers, and makers. The Unity Certified User Certification empowers creators to tell their stories, share their visions, and validate their skills. You and your students can design and make a better world by starting with certification. So we will go ahead and drop some links here shortly into the chat if you're interested in learning more about those programs as we go throughout our discussion today. Now, today we're going to be talking about creating a more hands-on classroom experience for your students. And we know for many of you, the school year is coming to an end, so this will be advice that you can mill over as you go through your summer vacation and think about your curriculum going into the new school year. And we have some incredible panelists here with us. We're going to be joined shortly by John Beal, who is in the middle of teaching and will be joining us shortly. We also have Brian Flores here with us, Jatin Bakhta, and Verhan Oskan. So we're so grateful to have all of them here. And I'm going to go ahead and just stop sharing my screen so that all of us can see each other. And we'll do a quick round of introductions so that we can all learn a little bit more about what we're going to be sharing today. So Jatin, we'll come to you first. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience in education.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jatin Bakhta, and I currently started a nonprofit called Open Innovation Centers. And what we're a little bit of my background. I've been in education space for God, 15 to 20 years. I'm just gonna say 15 to 20 years because I haven't really counted in a while. And so throughout my career, I've taught like at universities as well as teaching kids how to build out video games or combine the physical and digital together to create really cool products. So a lot of my experience kind of stems from that. So what we do at our nonprofit is bring a lot of that together. What I'm going to be talking more about today is just more geared towards our video game academy, where it is where all our courses are geared towards one, kind of figuring out what pathway makes sense within the game industry, as well as using Unity outside the game industry. And all our courses are geared towards like the certifications that Unity provides.
Amazing. Thank you, Jatin. Brian, we'll come to you next.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Brian Flores. I am a robotics teacher and VEX robotics coach at JM Hanks High School. That's in the Isleta ISD here in El Paso, Texas. I have taught 10th through 12th grade students. I've been an educator for 5 years, and prior to that, I have worked at Apple. And in addition to that, I have also taught advanced education at our local university. I have experience teaching engineering design and engineering design and problem solving, digital electronics, and right now I'm currently teaching robotics 1 and 2, which I center it all around the Autodesk Fusion and Inventor, which I have also certified students.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brian. Farhan, we'll come to you next.
Hello, thank you, Hannah. I'm Farhan. I'm the founder of XR Bootcamp. And my background is coming from actually more like engineering background. and I have the privilege of creating one of the first pre-incubation centers focusing on animation and game development. It was 17 years ago, and my whole life is all about enabling, educating, incubating different ideas, talents, and building regional programs. With XR, before XR, I've been working on a AAA game industry. Maybe you know, some of you know a company called Crytek. And I have been working with multiple big AAA publishers, building a digital distribution platform. After that, I built my own organization with the help of the different stakeholders. And for the last 8, 9 years, we are working on building developer first programs, education programs, and activation programs. We are usually working with companies who have been building technologies, tech stacks for game development and XR development, including Unity, Meta, Qualcomm, Niantic. And yeah, today I will probably talk a little bit more about XR development and XR and AI development side of things.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Farhan. John, you joined at just the right time. We're so happy that you're here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you teach in the classroom. And we have you on mute, so. Oh, John, you're doing a lot of build up for this. Let me know if I need to circle back to you if you're getting it okay. We'll circle around. All right, fabulous. Okay, so we want to dive into our topic for today, thinking about hands-on curriculum. So we'll start, Frehan, with you. Tell us, when we talk about hands-on curriculum, what do you think that that means?
Yeah, I mean, hands-on, we are, first of all, maybe I can give a little bit of background about our academy, because we are doing most of our education remote online. This means that whatever hands-on stuff we will do, we need to deliver this on a remote online environment. So I would say it's a little bit more difficult maybe to create a hands-on experience for remote education. But what we have done is actually like creating always we call it capstone project-based experience. This means that whenever you build a curriculum, it's always every time there is two things. One is you are building towards a capstone project step by step every week. And on top of that, at the end of every week or module, you are also doing assignments, which is again related with the capstone project, because for us, this is the ultimate goal, building this capstone project in 8 weeks. And in order to achieve that, these small assignments are actually giving you the opportunity. Our assignment structure is a little bit, I said small, but it takes a lot of time. Probably the most time spent per week for students is the assignment part. We have easy, medium, hard, and extremely hard assignments. They have to finish every one of them every week on time. And all these assignments are actually preparing you for the next module, right? So you are learning with video and with live sessions, and these assignments are actually testing your skills and knowledge. So this is how we approach to hands-on curriculum. Happy to share further in the next maybe items or issue
Perfect, yes.
topics.
Yeah, we'll be talking a little bit more, diving deeper into that. Jatine, we'll come to you next. When we talk about hands-on curriculum, what does that look like for you in your teaching?
Yeah, so so a lot of the courses that we've taught, like especially in the past and now, are a mix of remote or in person. So easier to do things in person when it comes to hands-on, but the way that we do our stuff remotely is, both in person and remote is having the instructor be a part of those projects and really be together with the students on those activities. And we found like it's a different take on what I think hands-on means for us and what we've seen success in, but having you kind of be part of the failures and the milestones and the celebrations, as well as really kind of trying to make some teachable moments as you're kind of going through some of these things where you are with them, right? So it we've seen a greater success of them not only learning some of the skills they need when they leave the classroom and go to said jobs and stuff like that, but it's really kind of geared towards that. We also make sure projects are geared towards a certain goal, right?
Hmm.
Which in our case is to provide the students the ability, one, to learn game development. Right now we use Unity, as well as to understand that you have multiple pathways when it comes to it, right? So when we do our courses and our games that they're developing and parts of it and so forth, it's all geared towards some of that. I'll say the rest in the other parts of it,
Yeah.
but yeah.
We could get into the nitty-gritty, which we're planning to do shortly. So I appreciate that kind of opening
Yeah.
insight. And I'm glad that we have representation here for remote as well as in-person learning, because I think the hands-on means something a little bit different depending on the structure of your classroom. So Brian, as an Autodesk educator, when we're talking about hands-on curriculum, what does that mean to you and to your students?
Yeah, so to me, a hands-on curriculum, it has to be immersive, right? It has to be a student-centered approach where the students are actively engaged and authentic, one. And as a CT teacher, which is a career in technical education, we are always trying to align our curriculum based on industry the standards. So building that knowledge through experience. So my curriculum, it encourages the students to experiment, to reflect, to apply the skills in real world context.
Well, that weaves very nicely into what I wanted to talk about. And I think everyone has addressed this, that the whole point of hands-on learning and creating a more immersive learning experience is that it actually gives students an opportunity to apply the skills as opposed to just kind of written and memorization work. So I wanted to address, how does that transition happen, or how does hands-on work really prepare students for their future careers? So Jatine, will come to you first.
For us, what I usually tell people is that if you spend enough time with me, I can teach you the skills that are necessary for you to obtain the job that you are looking
Hmm.
for. And but the one thing I cannot prep you, like be there for you, is how you can keep the job. That's something that you have to learn as you experience a lot of the stuff that we do through our courses. So when we talk about like why we want to do hands-on work together is we want them to experience those ups and downs, right? When you're working with others, they don't have to be your friends. You just have to be able to work with them, right? So when you go to the job, it's, you don't get to decide a lot of the things, right? But you also are like required to just know how to do a task. And so it's like, how do you fill that gap? So a lot of our hands-on also gives them those teachable moments and experiences where they learn how to learn based on how they perceive things. That way they are able to then go tackle those pieces within their job description or their future careers.
I like that lifelong learning, but then also some of these soft skills, which I think we'll address here in just a moment as well. So that's a great introduction. John, can we hear you? Hopefully, yes.
Yes,
Oh, fabulous. Yes.
perfect.
Okay, we're set. Wonderful. So we're talking, John, about hands-on work and how it prepares students for their future careers. So in your opinion, what are some of the skills that students are building in the hands-on environment in your classroom?
I would echo what I just caught the tail end of coming back in. But yeah, the huge part of it is soft skills. It's learning how to take that next step or have that initial initiative of, here's the task, we've given you the resources you need. Put the two together and then figure out how to get started on it. As opposed to, I think sometimes we see a more procedural approach that it's like spoon fed a little tiny bit at a time. And that can be useful when you're first getting started down that path. But ideally, we want to move past that to where it's closer to a work environment where you're not sort of handheld through every step of it, but you're given the resources you need, the skills you need, the support as needed, but not necessarily constant.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Being able to create the structure for the learning, but then having students, I think, operate independently based on the skills that they have and the work that they feel comfortable doing, along with some stretch goals of what we're hoping that they achieve as they go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Farhan, any additional thoughts on how the hands-on work that you're doing helps prepare students for their future careers?
Actually, I want to maybe resume what Jatin left off as well in terms of keeping the job. I think that part is quite interesting because as an academy that our focus is really workforce development. So we really want to make every of our students be job ready. And finding a job right after graduation might be maybe easier, but keeping it is quite difficult, especially when we are entering an era of AI can solve most of the stuff that you may or may not know, right? So our mindset is a little bit maybe I would say unique because what we are trying to do is, especially in such a rapidly evolving industry like VR, extended reality, and of course, even game engines like Unity, you are seeing a major update every 3, 6 months, right? Like when we are maybe even preparing for a job interview, during that job interview process, maybe there will be a new update coming, right? Even though you just graduated a few weeks or months ago. So the key skill that we are always pushing is, especially in our assignments, especially the extreme hard assignments that we have, is always trying to understand if they can tackle with the new problems that they are facing. And since these technologies are quite new, uh, thanks to especially big companies, they are really releasing before even QA test 100%. So some of these tools are not 100% dev friendly, right? So you will always tackle with some frictions at least, right? Or bugs even. So how you will hack your way through on this bug or this new SDK that you have not learned during boot camp, during academy, during like whatever course you are taking, right? So we are actually teaching them to understand new SDKs, new tools and tech stacks, rather than just focusing on the newest one, right? Because then you can let people to be ready whatever it comes, right? And how you can actually use AI for this. So this is our mindset. I would love to share maybe a little bit about the career part whenever we have time.
Yeah, we'll dive into that here in just a second. Brian, before we do that, I want to get your thoughts as well. You're seeing students in a traditional high school setting.
Mhm.
How are the hands-on courses and projects that you're teaching preparing students for careers after high school and maybe post-secondary education as well?
Yeah, so adopting those hands-on learning skills are so important because I believe that it bridges that theory knowledge and practical applications that prepares the students for careers through active engagement. So in my classes, the hands-on task like sketching and designing and building a robot it leads to the tangible outcomes. So this approach it develops the problem solving as skills, the collaborations that you know pre-pandemic continue to bring into the classroom, right? So these are the skills that employers are prioritizing once again. So I strongly believe that active learning it increases the STEM retention. So right now that our schools are losing kids across the nation, we need to incorporate more hands-on learning to continue to attract and retain the students. In addition to continue to provide those skills that the employers are needing, right?
Yeah, I agree. So now that we've talked about kind of a holistic approach of hands-on learning and how it prepares students for their careers, I want to get into some of the tactical application of hands-on projects. So I wanted to think about what are some of the hands-on projects that you've taught in your classroom that have been really successful? John, we'll go ahead and start with you.
I would say probably the most successful one that I do is with my freshmen. I teach engineering, and so when we're talking about structural engineering and beam theory, we have them design bridges. And it kind of starts out at a very rudimentary level of looking at the different types of bridges and learning a little bit more about it from that side. Then they take it into, there's a really good free structural analysis software for bridges that looks like a game, feels like a game, but uses all the real math and physics behind it. And I think it's West Point Bridge Simulator. And so we have them take their designs, plug it into that so they can see where there's compression, where there's tension, where there's high forces, where there's low forces, and kind of adjust their design based on what they see in that. They bring it into AutoCAD, and then we can send it to a laser cutter and cut the parts out of cardboard. And then we put it on a machine to test it to failure and see what the efficiency score is, so what the strength to weight ratio is. But the students really enjoy that because they can take it all the way from that design sort of idea in your head through the computer, through the digital pathway, into a physical product that then we can test and see what the actual results are. And of course, there's a competitive component, and they always enjoy that.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Farhan, what does that look like for your students? Because I believe you do some remote learning as well in your classroom, correct? Tell us how you're doing hands-on projects.
Definitely. Maybe I can quickly share a quick use case to just show how we approach to like a problem that we have seen. Because as I mentioned a few minutes ago, XR development is quite sophisticated. On top of coding skills, Unity development skills, you also need to know SDKs. So Meta, as you know, they have their own Meta Quest headset. They approached us how we can teach all the tech stack of mixed reality development in a short period of time, right? When they approached us, we thought, okay, how we can approach to this, because not everyone is interested, right? There's so many game developers, Unity developers out there. Not everyone is interested in XR development. So we thought, what if we create an actual game that people first play this, enjoy this, and then we build a course around this, right? So I just shared the link as well. It's a free course and game. So we have created some kind of like a gorilla game in your own house. You actually create like a very nice buildings, etc., and then you destroy them as if you are a gorilla inside your own house. It's actually played quite nicely, and it is fun. And then we said, okay, would you like to now, the game that you played, would you like to now build it with us, right? So we created almost like we call it Netflix style follow along. So they are actually binge follow along, as if binge watching. They are actually following along the videos step by step. There are also quizzes, and then they are finishing. As I mentioned in the beginning, it's almost like a capstone. The game that you play becomes a capstone for your course, and in less than a few days and less than 1 week, you can actually finish the whole course, and then you can build the same game that you have played a few days ago, right? So this was quite a huge success. We actually reached over 6,000 enrollments, students, and over 500,000 people downloaded this game on MetaQuest store. So it was really fun. I mean, there are some kids, of course, they are just probably finishing only the game, and then they are just looking at the first module of the class. But all of these people will be potential Unity developers, game developers, and XR developers in the future.
I love the idea of getting that initial buy-in, right? Enticing them with something very hands-on, very exciting, kind of in their wheelhouse at first, and then kind of taking it from there so that when it comes to learning difficult concepts, they see the purpose and they understand kind of where they're hoping to go from there. That's fabulous. Brian, any thoughts about hands-on projects that have been successful in your classroom?
Yeah, so hands-on work it prepares the students for that immersing them, right? So it brings those industry relevant tasks that develop those technical and soft skills. So I have found that in robotics class, which is not what I'm teaching, the students in my advanced robotics, they since day one in robotics one, so they go from basic CAD drawings to more advanced drawings, and then robotics two comes, and then that's where we get into the advanced manufacturing of Autodesk Fusion. And since day one of robotics one, the students they compile a portfolio. So I have these students for 2 years and they're compiling this portfolio, they're putting it together, and I have found that when they're when they get to their junior year or their senior year and they're looking for internships, they're looking for jobs, that portfolio speaks for themselves. I have had employers reach out to me and they just want to see the students' portfolios. They don't even want to interview them because they know that they are ready for the workforce, right? So that has worked really well for us. In addition to 3D printing, we do a lot of 3D printing, and especially for the prints that the students get to take home with them. So we start with something super basic, from like keychains to toothpaste squeezers to phone stands to things that we use in our daily life, right? And that's how I get these kids into get them into Fusion, get them into certifications, get them in because they get to take things home with them. They get to learn things. They get to expand in their careers with their portfolios when they become juniors and seniors.
I like that both you and Farhan have talked about ways to get students interested at a level at which they're currently comfortable and then tiering, right, the learning up from there. I think that ultimately is how we get them, right, is to get them engaged from the very beginning at a level that they understand. So I love that. Jatine, any additional thoughts from you?
Yeah, and I realized I forgot to talk about the career game loop. It's a
Yeah, do
great
you want to
resource.
double back? Let's talk about that really
Yeah,
quickly.
just real quick, it's just more. I'm still going through all the book itself. I just got it at the end of last week, but it's from Jessica Lindell from Unity. And it's just a great book that it really talks about the importance of like job hunting, upskilling, networking, and recruitment, and how you kind of integrate that within games in general, as well as just other avenues. And so I don't know if I could say that I got my book through our Unity network, and there might be some extra books available. Feel free to hit me up. I'll put my email there. I'll try to reach out and see if we could, hand out some books regarding that. The other thing I just want to mention about that previous one was the other skill that we like to introduce into our courses, and that is failure and how we fail forward, right? And understanding and learning from that. So uh, the book is called The Career Game Loop. I'll put a link to it in a second. But creating these little points as you are learning and experiencing, that's what's made like the failures and the ups and downs and so forth really beneficial for us when we do our hands-on projects. So for example, what Farhan was saying, that's how I got started in this. We created games. My first company was to create a game and then teach others how we made it. So we would, like, for example, I had tons of middle school kids from 8 years old learning how to build iPad games, and we showed them how it was, and then they built their games. And then what we did was we then got IT to approve it to load on every single iPad in the school, right? So now you have this huge game, that is accessible where they get to show other students, other friends, and stuff like that. So uh, those kind of things are really beneficial if you're able to pull it off within your district. It's always, I understand that there's some ups and downs on that. So that's really something that kickstarted our careers when we started this. The other part about like what projects went well for us when it comes to the hands-on projects and so forth, anything that can get transferred to them doing a paper prototype. So if you have something where, like, for example, we don't have to recreate like a really unique game to keep someone engaged, right? We even start with like when we do our user certification for programming, the UCU programmer for Unity, we start with like choose your own adventure. It's a very classic piece, right? But you can, even remotely, have people make flashcards, go through it with friends. You pick this choice. What's going to happen? You get to kind of envision some of that. So, mixing a lot of that is always a great thing in terms of how you could get people more and more into it, but also creating uh, uh, parts of the project where, for example, CYOA, I just tell them, cool, you're doing this, try to keep in the structure, go have fun. They will usually pick the first idea they have and just run with it, right? And so what they do is then it's like, how do we translate it? Well, you guys chose this, so let's see how we would envision and finish this, right? And then they get to learn about, why we do game design documents. Why do we do planning ahead of time, right? A lot of those lessons have to be learned in that controlled environment when we do these courses. That way, not only do they learn from it, they're able to then, even if they repeated the same game again, their structure and the way that they're using Unity itself is going to be so much more efficient. And those are the skills that really tie into, I know it's probably coming next, but to how you incorporate certification key points into your curriculum in the classroom. So, other games that we found very successful. Uh, I'm a huge game show junkie, probably because I grew up in the 80s and 90s. So, having a passion for a game and then having them make it gets you as an instructor more involved. So we're building Deal or No Deal, Press Your Luck, all these different types of games, and then you get to incorporate into, well, it's going to cover the UI elements in Unity as well as C sharp development up to a certain level because you're learning all the way up to, lists, dictionaries, all that fun stuff, right? How to randomize everything and things of that nature. So picking those type of games are always a positive because you don't have to have one game do everything, right? If it builds upon it, then you're gonna be able to, one, get more aha moments from your students, to then keep going and building better and better games in the future.
I feel like you've talked about I mean, there's a lot that I want to unpack there.
Sorry.
But no, no, that's fabulous. I think just one thing I wanted to double back to was this idea of failing forward and just kind of letting students dive in on a project, even though I feel like if you're like me, you kind of want to stop them and introduce a lot of potential pitfalls along the way. But how much more valuable is it then for to just learn it by themselves, yeah? Like with the planning and with the execution, there's so many elements that you as an expert, as an educator can see, well, I don't know if that's really going to work out the way that you're thinking, but when they see it and develop it on their own, then they know going forward that those are some of the pitfalls that they're going to come across. So I love this idea of just diving in head first into all these hands-on initiatives and hands-on projects and kind of seeing where it takes the students from there. And the next piece I wanted to talk about, now that we've talked about some potential ideas and ways to approach hands-on learning, is where can we get resources to make this possible, right? We have educators here on our panel who are remote. We have those who are in the classroom. So there's a lot of different ways to approach this and resources that make this easier to implement. So John, we'll come to you first. When it comes to executing a hands-on project, what resources do you turn to and find most valuable?
So that's a great question. So a lot of times it's kind of all over the place. Sometimes it's other teachers, sometimes it's something that I just sort of get an idea for. Um, Sometimes it's just something that I'm passionate about that I can figure out how to make it work within the standards and everything else. And that passion then, shows through when you're getting the students involved, and it helps them get excited and get engagement as well. Um, as far as specific places, I find there's a handful of, with engineering side of things, there's a handful of YouTube channels that are really good. Instructables is really good for ideas because they'll give you sort of step by step on how to do this project or that project. Um, I wish I had like 3 books to recommend, but off the top of my head, I don't.
No, I think that's fabulous. And if you want to drop the link, if you have it pulled up, John, the link to that YouTube channel in the chat, I think that would be fabulous so that people can reference that a little bit later, or I can search it and find it as well. So
Yeah.
thank you. I think
If
free resources also are great to start with. Yeah, John, go ahead.
Absolutely. If I can just message it to you afterwards because I
Yeah,
had to go to
please.
my
That would be
phone.
fabulous.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Amazing. All right, Farhan, any additional resources, free or paid, that you find really helpful for hands-on learning with your students?
I would also recommend the Career Game Loop. I also contributed to the book as well, especially this failure part is probably the most, I would say, interesting thing that we want to contribute. Because after you learn in our programs as well, the first half is all about learning with assignments, still hands-on and capstone project. But the second half of all our programs are completely like hackathon environment. So imagine that you have to hack every week another project. So you are doing a continuous hackathon every week, and it's still takes around 8 weeks, right? So you have to finish 4 prototypes, 2 MVPs before you graduate, right? So that's the part that we believe that, especially from a resources part, that I try to explain. Actually, Hannah, you also shared the Spotify interviews. We also tap into that. So I think instead of maybe taking so much of the time here, you can just go there and then watch the podcast there. It's all about there. But what I can say is, like in a nutshell, is we first make sure that every student is brave enough and they are actually not hesitating to fail, but not one time fail. Like we really want them to fail multiple times, even though at the end of every week on Thursdays, for example, in 2 days, we have the next presentation session, final presentation session after they finish 1 week of sprint. They have to present in 2 minutes what they have built in the whole week, right? Based on the project that they select. Even though they failed, we want them to share their postmortem, the things that they have failed. So it will be a nice lesson learned for each one of them and their friends, and it becomes a huge opportunity. So our mindset is, we always say, fail fast, upskill faster. So that's what we are aiming, and we are really, I don't remember how many times that we use the word of fail just to make sure them get used to failing. You know, that's also something maybe they were evading in their lives, but this is a safe space that you can fail together and then learn together.
I love the idea of that kind of weekly conference. And I don't know what that looks like for every classroom, but this idea that if we gather together and talk about our failures openly and even our successes openly, it gives everyone a chance to learn lessons that someone maybe had to learn the hard way. And it makes it so that collaboratively we're able to kind of upskill as a group, not just individually. So I think that's fabulous. Brian, anything that you wanted to add as far as resources for your classroom that you found helpful and beneficial?
Yes, you know what? Right now is a very exciting time for Autodesk Fusion. I have been teaching Fusion for many years now, and if you are teaching Fusion or Inventor and you update to the latest versions of it, on the right side, there's something called the Learning Panel, and that is brand new. And whatever the students are working on, either CAD or CAM, uh, the software automatically recognizes what they're working on, what the task is, and they are constantly synchronizing the learning panel with the assignment. And they have tools and resources and how-to videos and tons of resources there that it's already been provided by Autodesk. In addition to, Certiport has amazing collaborations with Geometrics, LearnKey, Brain Buffet, all of those resources I use in my classroom. YouTube, I think I'm echoing somebody here. YouTube has some excellent resources, free resources that you can use to teach, to bring into the classroom. Um, and of course keeping up with the trends, right? Going on TikTok, going on Instagram, seeing what these engineering firms are doing, are building. You want to bring that into the classroom. And another thing is experience, right? You want to bring in all of your experience, all of your knowledge into the classroom, just because that is what an engineering is doing right now, and you that's what the kids want to learn. That's what you want to teach them, right?
I like that. Being the expert in your own classroom, I think a lot of times we undervalue just what a resource the experience that you as educators have. So being able to just talk about your own experience, failing or succeeding, yeah, that there's so much value in sharing that with your students. Jatine, any additional thoughts from you about resources that you found beneficial for your students?
Yeah, so one thing that's super important as we're talking about educators and kind of, trying to create projects with your students. You as educator, it is okay for you to fail during that interaction with them, right? So uh, I always run into something. I was like, you know what? Let's try it out. My computer may freeze. That's the worst that would happen when we do some 3D printing stuff. If you've seen a print go horribly wrong, it is going everywhere, right? And it is a glorified mess that then you will always remember, like, oh shit, I forgot to do this. Oh, sorry, excuse my language. But going to like resources and so forth. I one of the things that's really helpful, I don't expect everybody to be this awesome game developer educator, right? So how do you kind of bridge that gap? Unity Learn platform has a ton of free assets and curriculum that's kind of geared towards learning specific tasks. So using that as a jumping point is always great because they'll have really great VFX, sound, and all those kind of things that you may not have, right? And then as you get more comfortable, then you could start adding your own things into it, right? There's a ton of free assets in the Unity Asset Store that you can pull from and utilize within the your games, right? And we always tell students to explore that. And because I like we get 8 weeks and it's 9 hours a week to get them to this next level. And it's in the evenings, so it works for them having day jobs and all that kind of stuff. Because what this is 18 and up, some of the stuff that we do. When they're in the class, it's even once a week for the whole year for them to go through these programs, right? So really, if you want to learn how to design more, right? Once you see more design elements from the Unity store and so forth, then you could start looking at Blender and things of that nature, right? It really opens up like your many pathways, right? So we don't expect you guys to all know everything because heck, I don't even know that. And I feel like I'm very upfront to my students, like, hey, we'll figure it out together, and so forth. So the type of things that just make it easier is always just to have like a core, like 5 resources that you yourself have learned from that worked well for the way you want to teach, right? And just giving resources from YouTube it's fine, right? But it could also kind of bash heads with the way you're trying to implement something, right, with the students. So just kind of figuring out that perfect balance, right? So like for example, for Unity, like the first person that comes to mind is like Brackeys and CodeMonkey, right? They've been around for a long time, great tools for that. I could post the links in a second for their channels, but they teach in a certain way, right? And they're gearing you towards, hey, you here learn the principles of better design practices in C Sharp. Well, we don't have enough time for that in this class, right? That's a different AP computer science class or whatever it is, right? So how to kind of just flow with that. But Unity Learn kind of really breaks it into chunks that have a better flow to start with, right? And then integrate your own ideas into some of this stuff, right? Like project management. Everyone in a group picks a part of the project, and one's the leader, and they have to manage the team to build whatever it is, right? Some of those skills you guys all probably already have. Right. So, using for technical help, like, yeah, Unity Learn, you could look at some of the more developed YouTube channels that have great ways to implement a certain feature, like AI navigational mesh, stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, just kind of having that mix, I think, is just very important. And it's okay to uh, say that, hey, I don't know the answer, let's look it up. I always pull up my Google and go, let me type it in, let's figure it out, right? And it's important to be able to be that free when it comes to that.
I love that everyone has cited something different. And to your point, Jatine, I think every teacher approaches curriculum, whether you're teaching the same topic or totally different topics, in a very unique and individual way. So catering the resources that you use in the classroom to your approach to teaching really makes such a huge difference. So you're not fighting against the resources that you're integrating into your course. So I'm curious, and if people want to drop into the chat, I would love to hear what are resources that are working for you as well. And we're just going to highlight one, and Jatine kind of teased this here a little bit about certification and how that can be an element of your course and your hands-on classroom. So John, we'll come to you. How have you integrated certification? It's obviously not a hands-on project, but it's a part of your course. So how are you using certification in your classroom?
Absolutely. So for my freshman class, we use AutoCAD with almost all of our projects. For the bridges, they're designing the parts that we're going to cut out. Right now, fourth quarter for my freshmen, we do board games so that we can talk about technical writing and dealing with both positive and negative feedback as other people play your board game. And it works as kind of a capstone for them to use their skills in AutoCAD that they've developed through the year. And also start to play a little bit in Tinkercad or Inventor for 3D modeling if they need to design some 3D parts for their games. For my juniors in civil engineering, they work in Revit. And for my juniors in computer integrated manufacturing, they work a lot in Inventor to design the parts and pieces they need for the projects they're working on.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, John. That's helpful. Ferhan, did you have anything that you wanted to add about where certification plays a role in your course?
Um, we are basically having our own certification system that you can share as part of your portfolio or LinkedIn. One maybe small thing that I can add is during these small sprints, right, weekly sprints I mentioned, you are not only building a portfolio, but we are also teaching how to survive on a studio environment, which will be probably their next job environment, right? So we have scoping sessions at the end of each sprint as if you are scoping with your lead. And we have Scrum meetings, as you can know this as daily check-ins every day. And then afterwards, there's a final presentation. And all of these actually studio-like environment, even remote studio-like environment, helps people to understand how a typical studio environment that they will be working soon look like, right? So that's the part that I would suggest that for everyone to maintain. Of course, school is a different environment, but try to make this happen. And regarding David's question, actually, yes, these sprints might be very short, but how we are evading the situation that the projects may not finish, either if they fail, they are just sharing their failure. And second thing is, we are scoping together with the student from day zero of that sprint, right? So you know that this 1 week is just enough for the student to finish. And all of these projects is coming to like a portfolio, which is attached with a very nice certification that will lead you to a job opportunity.
I like that. So it's scoping them in a small enough way that there's ways to kind of scale them up from here. And thank you for addressing David's question. I was going to come back to that as well. So that's fabulous. Brian, any additional thoughts about the integration of certification in a hands-on curriculum?
Yeah, so in my introductory class, those CAD tasks that I design are very introductory. So basic robots, basic 3D printing, which is going to ensure the mastery before they advance into a robotics 2 class or an advanced manufacturing class. Um, so embedding those certifications, that's how we embed those certifications. We start them small, but we grow them, right? And I also want to answer David's question there is, I evaluate the students by using process-oriented rubrics. So rubrics that are focused on design, on iteration, on reflection, right? The rubrics that will go through the engineering design process and not just grade on the final project. So yeah.
I like that. I think that that approach works no matter what type of course you're teaching, right? It's not just about the final deliverable, but the approach that the student took in executing. Jatine, any additional thoughts that you wanted to share about integration of certification and where that plays a role?
So all our classes are kind of right now geared towards those certifications. So the way that we implement it is through mini game development. So because the understanding of if we're working with youth, their timeline's different than adults, right? So and the way we cater towards that is we make a mini game small enough that you're able to do everything, from creating the title screen to having the proper game over screens and all that kind of stuff and everything in between. So if you could only make one level, that's great. That's fine. We wrap it up nicely. I think it was like carnival-based games, right? Something that you're able to kind of really do something quick right there, but it's a good experience, right? So we like integrating those kind of pieces and only working on so like all the small games that we make, you do a little bit of everything, but then you focus on one key component that's in the certification exam itself, right? So for example, when we do, I'll just go back because I mentioned it as an example, choose your own adventure, right? That's going to be all Canvas UI based game development. So we're still making the entire the game logic of creating a beginning screen, end screen, so forth. And it allows you to, one, keep it super as simple as possible based on how much time you could actually put towards it, but kind of gives them that skill. Then we move to like platforming games. And it's like, well, that's such a huge concept, right? But you know what? We're going to make one level. We're going to go through this, and the level could just be getting to the end, right? And that's it, but that's fine because you're now understanding how to do animations and the other pieces that are required. And then we actually dedicate about 4 weeks towards a bigger project towards the end after they've done enough mini games. That way, then it's just that reinforcement learning opportunities and just doing the same thing over again with a slightly bigger idea, right? And always people coming in, we tell them you're not going to be able to make your dream game today or in the next whatever time you have with us, right? But we are going to teach you those skills first to level up. That way, you once you get to the like our third class, is where you're actually developing towards publishing on Steam. And usually it's like a beta version, right? I don't have enough time. Like if I had a year-long program, sure, we would build out a really good, solid, alpha, right? But you know, take the time into consideration, but doing simple games is okay. You don't have to make it the most complicated, right? And just tying it back to Unity Learn, like there's this really cool ray tracing example where you get to learn how to shoot a projectile in a FPS based game, right? So if people are interested in something like that, they could totally go that avenue. Or, uh, they have their famous rollerball course where you're learning how to just, for those of you who grew up with Marble Madness on the Nintendo, you're able to kind of just move a marble around, collect items, and be chased by something, right? So, all sorts of things that you can do that are small enough but cover what the certification is doing.
Yeah, I like that idea that each of the hands-on projects is exciting in its own right, but that it also helps master a concept and kind of build to that point of earning the credential as kind of the final piece. We're unfortunately running short on time, which this has been an incredible discussion. I'm so glad that we've had our panelists here to join us. I did just want to give time for one last quick question about advice, right? This has all been a great discussion. I'm sure a lot of people have a ton of ideas for how this can apply to them, but we'll end with, for those looking to integrate more hands-on projects, create a more hands-on curriculum, where should they start? So John, we'll go ahead and come to you first.
I would say the first two like biggest points are one, don't be afraid to try it. And as other people have said, don't be afraid if it doesn't go perfectly. It's important for kids to see us fail as well, so they can see that it's not the end of the world. For my students, I have students that are AP and IB, and I have students that are taking remedial math classes, and on both sides of it, I think it's really important that they see that that's not the end. That's just the next step. So that would be my little short blurb.
Perfect. Thank you, John. Farhan, anything that you want to add to that? Any final advice?
I think I have maybe two points I can quickly share. One of them is, of course, AI. We have to understand and accept the fact that AI, whatever we have been talking for the last 1 hour, can be maybe created up to some point or assisted with AI, right? So either from student side or educator side. So whatever we talk today is we may prefer to make it much more easier and fun with AI. But most interesting thing that I can say as a final point is we believe that user-generated content, UGC, etc., like what happens with YouTube, now it's happening with games like Roblox or Minecraft or Horizon Worlds. So we are actually thinking of creating some kind of like a reality show type of format that it will be the first time in the world. So we don't know how much it will be like impactful. But the idea is to letting students and educators in a reality show format that they are actually learning together, but also they are experimenting and they are actually having some kind of like a little bit of competition element that students are being inclined to create some kind of like an interesting stuff. It can be for any STEM or Unity or other stuff. Anyways, most of these UGC platforms are built with game engine like Unity, right? So if someone is interested here in this group, happy to also like bring them as like a part of the pilot program that we are preparing now with some UGC platforms, how we can create a reality show element that they are feeling like they are on a Beast Games or like a Hunger Games or Squid Games, whatever you call it, and they are still learning something during this experience. Happy to explore that. Maybe next year we can have one more webinar to talk a little bit about that.
Perfect. Thank you, Farhan. And feel free to drop your contact information in the chat if you're comfortable with that so people can reach out that are interested. Appreciate it. Brian, any final thoughts or advice from you?
Yes, you know what? I have always told myself that I was born to be an educator. So create a fun, hands-on classroom. So embrace PBL, project-based learning, right? With engaging the industry relevant projects like creating basic things that the students can take home and use daily. Use, I kept saying use Autodesk curriculum, but use it for as a structure, right? Not for your entire curriculum. Encourage collaboration through friendly competition, like many of our panelists said. So use VEX challenges, build that teamwork, those communication skills that the students need right now.
Appreciate that, Brian. I think that's wonderful. Jatine, we haven't given you a ton of time, but any final thoughts from you?
Two real quick, pick something that you have a passion for as an educator to implement a game based off of, right? The more passionate you are to work together with them, the better your results will be. And the other part is if you could tie in some type of physical prototype or anything like that, that's going to also help reinforce said activity.
Love that. That's perfect. Okay, and I'll just wrap up with a quick thank you to all of our amazing panelists and for all of the questions and commentary in the chat. It's been so wonderful and engaging to be able to address this topic with all of you. I did just want to do some quick announcements before we close out. I know we're over time, but this discussion is going to be continued in the coming weeks at our annual Certified Educator Conference, which is happening in Dallas, Texas, June 16th through the 18th. So if you're looking to enhance your experience or interact more with our educators and talk about this type of curriculum, we would love to have you join us. You can find more information and register at certified.certiport.com. The second announcement is that we'll be taking a summer vacation from our monthly webinars, and our next session will take place in August. We're going to be discussing ways to leverage AI in the classroom. So going back to Farhan's comments about using AI, using all of these different tools that we have available to us. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this link here in the chat so that everyone can register and learn a little bit more. But we hope you all take some time this summer to relax, maybe meditate on the things that we've discussed today so that you can go back stronger into your classroom in the next school year. So thank you for spending the time with us. We look forward to seeing hopefully all of you with us in Texas and in our next session in August. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your afternoon. We'll see you soon.